It seems to me that Putin is his role model, and he loves how Putin behaves at home and how he expands his country and behaves on the international scene. And it's something that animates him and attracts Trump. And for sure, Trump does not understand the implication of any bad deal on Ukraine, for Europe, and certainly the whole world.
Now, Ukrainians have gathered in the capital, Kyiv, to mark the country's Independence Day. Relatives of missing soldiers held flags and signs at a rally. Addressing the crowd, President Zelensky vowed that Ukraine would continue to fight for its freedom. He also revealed that King Charles had sent him a letter in which the king said he feels the greatest and deepest admiration for the unbreakable courage and spirit of the Ukrainian people. President Zelensky was joined by the Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney.
We emphasize that the approach for securing peace must remain consistent with these principles of no decisions about Ukraine being taken without Ukraine and no decisions about Europe being taken without Europe.
Well, other world leaders have also been sending their messages of support, including the German Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, the French President, Emmanuel Macron, and the US Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. The Colosseum in Rome is being lit up in the colours of the Ukrainian flag. But the Russian embassy in Italy shared a video on social media saying Ukraine's Independence Day, there's nothing to celebrate. Well, Alexander Khara is a former advisor to the Ministry of Defence in Ukraine and a director of the Centre for Defence Strategies and joins us now from Kyiv. Alexander, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Carol.
And, well, if I can wish you a happy Independence Day under the circumstances, tell me how this day is being marked there.
Well, first of all, let me say thank you to the British nation and to the consecutive British government and certainly to His Majesty for supporting Ukraine diplomatically and militarily. What is important to note that the United Kingdom has been with Ukraine since 2014, when the rest of Europe, except of the eastern flank, were reluctant to understand the threat from Russia and help Ukraine. So we highly appreciate what the British nation has been doing to support Ukraine. Well, certainly it was a pretty good mood of the people that gathered first and foremost at St. Sophia Square in the downtown of Kyiv. And we listened to the speeches of Ukrainian President and Prime Minister of Canada. There were several dignitaries from other countries, defense ministers and others as well, and certainly diplomatic corps, Ukrainian civil society, and certainly Ukrainian military.
And tell us a bit more about the president's message, because this is the fourth Independence Day since that full-scale invasion.
Well, the message was bold that Ukraine protected and secured its independence, that it's not going to change, and certainly Ukraine is going to fight on this war, even though the president said that, we are ready for peace. But I don't think he is a genuine belief that there is an appetite for peace in Russia. And not just Putin, but majority of Russians support this genocidal war against Ukraine. And by the way, what's interesting, there were several Americans who were awarded several state awards, to start with the General Kellogg, who is a special negotiator for Ukraine. Even though he was ousted by Trump and he is dealing primarily with Ukraine, and Mr. Witkov, the special representative of the president for the Middle East, he is actually running the talks with Russia and so on and so on. And a couple of priests from the United States and evangelics who has been supportive of Ukraine. And it's important, that majority of those who support the Republican Party in the United States, they are evangelists.
And Alexander, I wanted to ask you, what do you make of where these negotiations are going? Because, of course, there was that groundbreaking meeting between President Trump and President Putin. President Zelensky has said that he would be prepared to go ahead and actually meet the Russian leader, despite the fact that it is, of course, President Putin who sent his troops into your country. But despite all the talks of the progress made in that meeting, since then there seems to have been little concrete progress that anyone can point to as to what has been achieved towards trying to get a ceasefire. President Trump says he doesn't need a ceasefire. He can go straight to a peace deal. But as to where this goes to next?
Well, first of all, I don't believe in a slim chance of any positive results out of these so-called peace talks because there is no substance in it. And secondly, there is no condition for peace. And I like the definition of peace by one of the British historians. Peace is not just a merely absence of war. It's such a status quo that sides wants to support, and there are institutions, procedures, and mechanisms how to resolve issues and not to allow the war to break out. And Russians are not going to, to propose Ukraine anything of that kind. They have resources and they believe they can beat us on the battlefield. And now with Mr. Trump in the office, who is unwilling to exert pressure over Putin and who is cutting support for Ukraine. Recently, there was a piece in the Western media that the Secretary Hexet and his deputy Elbridge cut actually they banned Ukraine from targeting Russian mainland. And certainly it's something that undermines the ability of our armed forces to defend themselves.
So what would you like, President?
Any prospect.
So what would you like President Trump to do now? Because, of course, he had issued this ultimatum to the Russian leader. He had said that if President Putin doesn't agree to a peace deal, or at least agree to take steps that could lead to this, that the United States, would impose punitive tariffs, perhaps secondary tariffs on other countries as well. I mean, would you like to see him do that, or do you think there is further pressure that President Trump should now be putting on President Putin?
Well, for sure. In the 19th century, the Chinese were issuing the last warnings to the United States, and in some there were 900 last warnings. And we've seen with Trump the same thing. He has been postponing these harsh tariffs on Russia. And it seems to me that Russia is more important for him than Ukraine and Europe as a whole, and that's why he is not unwilling, to just to exert some pressure on Russia. So I do not believe that he will change his mind anytime soon. But finally, it's a rule of the Russia-American relations. Each and every American president wants to start to give a fresh start of the relations and to be on the positive note. But by the end of the term, the relations are worsening for the simple reason neither values nor interests of the United States and Russia are in line. If we're talking about this particular president, it seems to me that Putin is his role model, and he loves how Putin behaves at home and how he expands his country and behaves on the international scene. And it's something that animates him and attracts Trump. And for sure, Trump does not understand the implication of any bad deal on Ukraine, for Europe, and certainly the whole world. So I would love to see Mr. Trump to support us with weapons, and particularly capabilities that we need to inflict greater pain on Russia, in particular deeper into Russian territory. I am talking about air power and long-range missiles, which has been not supported to Ukraine at all. If we are talking about Storm Shadow, Scalp, and some other attacks, they are tactical missiles. They are not long range.
And I'm really sorry, Alexander, but we are out of time. But you have made your point very powerfully, and it's been great to speak to you from Ukraine as your country marks its Independence Day. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.